Congressman Michael Waltz over here in Florida. The congressman also spent time as a Green Beret, he's a member of the National Guard, worked for Dick Cheney, and he had more to do probably than anyone of getting the RNC to Jacksonville, Florida. Congressman, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Great to be with you, and what a great day for Jacksonville and for Florida. Really excited.
Yeah, I want to get to that, but I also want to get to this. The anarchy that's taking place in Seattle. I am horrified by it. I'm angered by it. And you know who else is angry? The police chief, who made it clear it was not her choice to leave. Cut 5.
You should know, leaving the precinct was not my decision. You fought for days to protect it. I asked you to stand on that line, day in and day out, to be pelted with projectiles, to be screamed at, threatened, and in some cases hurt.
And they did. And this police chief, if she had her druthers, would still be holding her precinct. But for the second time in 3 weeks, an American police forces evacuate a precinct. Am I wrong to be very concerned about this?
No, you're not wrong. You know, Brian, I've served, as a Green Beret in ungoverned spaces all over the world. Where lawlessness reigns. It's many places tribal rule, and what is really mind-boggling for me is just the media's complicity here, and completely spinning and shading the truth. Look, if the police are not allowed to go in and defend our rights, and I want to make the point here, the rest of America has rights too, not just protesters, then that is a lawless society. I agree with your concerns. It's going to spread. And at some point, this goes to the militarization debate. At some point, if these local officials will not restore law and order, then, as the president said, then he will. And he will use the forces at his disposal. We are not talking peaceful protests where people are singing "We shall overcome" and waving signs. The rioting, the looting, my church in Washington, D.C., St. John's Church, that was set on fire. We have to restore order in this country. We can't have those peaceful conversations until order is restored. And that's what we have to do.
And by the way, Congressman, I'm not seeing this whole defund the police. We're hearing about it in Eugene, Oregon. We're hearing about it now, obviously, in Seattle. We're hearing about it in Portland. Yep. We see it taking root in Los Angeles and New York. I mean, Joe Biden's running from this. But these are all liberals that are pushing to defund law enforcement as if giving less money will produce more security.
Well, the amazing thing, especially in Washington, is just a few weeks ago when we were talking about more money for states, is Democrats were talking about, how dare anyone let police officers get laid off.
Great point.
When we were talking about COVID, now they want to do that very thing. That is the thing that will hurt underserved and underprivileged communities the most. There are a lot of African American leaders saying, "Don't you dare do this." It's just ridiculous. I don't even know how to really credibly comment on this idea of allowing anarchy to reign. If we want to talk about more monies or more resources into communities that need them, I'm happy to do that. But to do it at the expense of the officers who put themselves in the breach, 99.9% of them are amazing Americans who strap on that belt and badge every day and put them in between the bad guys and us. That's the last thing we should do for the communities that we're trying to help.
This guy, Caleb Heim, absolutely. The chairman of the Washington State GOP weighed in on what he sees in Seattle right now. For those people who said it's a festival and it's going to be a summer of love, according to the mayor, listen to Caleb Heimlich.
I went down to the zone last night. We witnessed the police trying to walk back to their precinct, a precinct that has been abandoned for the last 4 days, essentially all week. And about 100 protesters charged the police, picked up physical barriers, fencing, walls, and forcefully pushed them back. And we posted the video on our Twitter showing the police then piling in vans and moving on.
And it got worse from there. I just think, I don't know what the president's options are, but, bringing in the troops there, I'm not sure is the best thing in Washington. Politically, I'm not sure. To me, you need a governor with a semblance. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, the National Guard works. I think that's a distinction that's getting lost. The difference between National Guard and active duty. National Guard works for the governors, lives in the communities, have civilian jobs, go home at night, and are trained. The Florida National Guard in particular receives days of civil disturbance training. Many of them are actually police officers in their day jobs every year. So that is an option in between total lawlessness by some of these mayors and the president having to bring in federalized troops. These governors can step in, and they have the trained forces from those communities at their disposal. And I think that should be the next option. And I think that's getting lost in the back and forth.
All right, so Congressman, about 2 weeks ago, the president said he got word that the Democratic governor of North Carolina was not going to okay any type of rally at the Republican National Convention. So the last day, the president wants to get the momentum at the end of August and ride it to his reelection. And the Democratic mayor was not going to let him do that because of what they claim would be coronavirus concerns.
Yeah.
What did you do when you heard that?
Well, when I heard the president mention that, and actually read, he mentioned his concerns about the Democrat governor mayor playing politics with the convention, not letting him have a convention he wants to have. I called him and made the case for Florida. I know Governor DeSantis did as well, and I've mentioned it a number of times. And once we had Florida down, then it was a matter of where within. And one of the things, I just want to give credit to him, to Ronna McDaniel, the RNC chairwoman, and everybody who saw the amazing community that is Jacksonville, Florida, that hosted a Super Bowl in 2005, can handle this logistically, and just how great this is going to be for our business community that really needs a shot in the arm. And Brian, you know Florida. I'm thrilled that they saw what I see in my hometown, which is a fantastic place to have this convention. We'll roll out the red carpet for them. I made that case on the phone and made it on Air Force One, and I know others did too. It really was a team effort, and I think a lot of credit to Mayor Lenny Curry, the governor, and everyone else who really brought this together. It's going to be a huge lift over the next 8 weeks. But I think we're going to be able to have the convention that he wants to have. And to the critics on Corona, look, cases are rising, but testing is rising. What I look at are hospitalizations and, unfortunately, some deaths, and those are flat. They've been flat for quite some time. And, it drives me nuts that people keep moving the goalposts on the COVID issue. The entire goal for the shutdown was to flatten the curve to allow capacity in our hospitals. Ventilators, PPE, beds, and others. That capacity is there. And keeping everybody locked in their homes just is not sustainable. And you've talked about all the deaths that we're seeing as a result of suicide, as a result of people not getting their cancer treatment, addiction, and livelihoods that have been devastated. And the thing that I keep calling out is that people making these lockdown decisions are all getting a paycheck. They're all getting a government paycheck, whether it's the governor of Michigan or others. But the people who need this business and aren't getting a paycheck are really, really excited to have this convention.
Absolutely. And I did something on television today. All the gym owners almost across the country who are just watching their businesses, their franchises die because these politicians are just letting that be at the end of the green light. And they've been the most responsible in getting their gyms ready. And the other thing is, Congressman, give us an idea why Jacksonville beat.
I saw a report today that estimating 40% of African-owned businesses will never come back in a lot of these communities. So when we want to talk about helping people set the stage for a better life, we have to eliminate the bad actors in the police force, but we also have to get back to the economic conditions where we were with record low minority unemployment. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I do, absolutely. And also, don't tell me you're so concerned for me. looking out for me while you allowed the protesters who are on rampant in our streets, looting a lot of our businesses, 2 inches away from each other and wearing masks, more for surveillance purposes than safety purposes. Lastly, a couple of things. How did Jacksonville beat Orlando?
We have at the end of the day, what I don't think a lot of folks realize is Representative Val Deming's husband, it runs Orange County where Orlando is. So there was some concern that you would have the same problems we've had with Charlotte. But at the end of the day, we have a Republican mayor that is ready to roll out the red carpet. And we have a community that can handle the infrastructure, needs and wants the business. And everyone is just really, that I've talked to, is really fired up with this decision. And again, the 4th anniversary. The whole team for making the case. Yeah.
This is Michael Waltz. This is the 4th anniversary of the shooting at the Pulse nightclub. I was there to cover it, the aftermath, as we try to unwind what happened. Now, as an Al-Qaeda Islamic extremist hit, what are your reflections? What do you keep in mind on this day?
Well, number one, my prayers and thoughts to those 49 families that are no longer with us, that lost their loved ones. But really where I'm focused on, Brian, we've talked about this, is we have to stay on offense against terrorism around the world. We can't get distracted. ISIS, the Taliban, and others are trying to take advantage of this COVID crisis. We have to keep our foot on their necks over there. If we do not, it will follow us home. I understand the frustration with the lengths of these wars. I wrote a book on how we can do them better, but we can't just stick our head in the sand like President Obama did and just completely pull back from Iraq. That gives those terrorists space to attack us here rather than defending themselves over there. And I never want to see a Pulse, San Bernardino, any of those ever happen again.
I hear you. Congressman, thanks for all you do. Congratulations on producing for Jacksonville, your congressional district again. Congressman Michael Waltz, thanks. Your call's next.